Hoo boy. Well, we're back here again. Doing this. Mender bug time. Okay, well, I don't know what I'm gonna talk about in this episode, cause I'm really not like really running low on topics, cause back at it here, diving into the well. Well, haha, I get it, cause it's a well, and I said well, but it was in a different context. Let's see. Got 17,000 geo, which is pretty nice, even though I have nothing left to buy. So really don't need that much geo at all. I probably could like go to the Spirit's Glade and wrap that up. I guess I could do that now. And I could do like Grey Prince Zote 10, but like I don't know if I'm good enough at the game to do that. Ooh, Dash Master. So the one problem here is that Revek doesn't get like, I don't know, stunned. I don't know what to call it, like that little period where I probably should have Dream Wielder on now that I think of it. So that little period where Revek, like after you shade cloak, like sharp shadow, it doesn't come back for a while, or it used to, and now I think if it wasn't like patched or something, I'm pretty sure it would be intentional, but like shade cloaking into Revek doesn't do anything, and there's no cooldown on attacks anymore, so it's a lot more difficult, and that's why I say there's probably something. Yeah, there's one there. That's why I saved it for now, cause I wasn't sure if it was actually gonna work. Okay, well, apparently that was just a bug. Oopsie daisy. A bug in 1.3.0.4. And so now it's actually working again. Thankfully. Now it's a bit easier. Cool, okay. Cause like, the last time I went over here, there was no like grunt, that ooh. Oopsie daisy, mistimed that. There you go, like that. And Revek would just keep attacking even if you dashed into him or her. I don't know. Not sure about that. But now that it's fixed, it's a lot better. You could probably like dodge it just with jumping and stuff, but it should be good enough. And then we'll just leave. I think I got all the ghosts. And I don't really need lifeblood charms anymore. Didn't really have many of them in the first place. Then I'll just switch over to the whole Mender bug murder setup. Okay, and that should be the end of this. The glade has stilled. It's so quiet, yet I feel failure? In this place I once performed a task, but what was it? It's so hard to recall. Surely it was important. How could I forget such a thing? To protect? Was that my task? If so, who was I protecting? Oh, fuck. Mispronounced it. It's only you and me here. Do and then get that essence. I think there are a few more from the Whispering Root that I didn't get yet. But now I am well on my way to the maximum. I did Dreamgate a lot more than usual, which is probably why I don't have the 3208, which is the absolute maximum. And also should be in. Okay, well, there's still some more essence somewhere, but as you can see, I'm getting extremely close. And what I was gonna say is that I also saved, quote unquote, Cloth. She didn't fight Trader Lord with me, which means that is one essence that I forfeited. So that should be enough. So the max should be 3207. And I might have not gotten some other ghosts along the way. So I am really close, and I guess like the Dream Gates and the enemy essence drops sort of balanced out, so I am quite close. And I might as well get Cloth into Dirtmouth, talk to her over here. Unfortunately, Tiso did leave because I accidentally talked to him while spamming dive. So I don't have like a completely populated Dirtmouth, but it's not like Tiso is the greatest character to begin with. Sorry, Super Tiso, if you're even watching this, which is highly unlikely. So yeah, I'm just gonna talk to Cloth over here. Guess I do need to like kill all these enemies to get Cloth to pop up. Should double hit, yep. Did that even work? Nope. Oopsie daisy. Alright, there you go. And then should trigger her return. My friend, you dealt with all those beasts? I'm ashamed to say I was hiding. Those ghastly things chased me and I ran. If you hadn't come along, who knows if I'd ever have survived. Others take me for a fearsome warrior, what with my impressive size, but this kingdom's beasts, I wonder if I'm just no match for them. Enough! I cannot wallow in my weakness. I must take strength from your example. You act so confident in battle. You show no fear before your foes. I'll try my best to do the same. Yeah, okay. And that should be like pretty much all of the quote-unquote content. Off screen I did talk to Divine and Leg Eater and stuff and finish that up. So the tent's gone now, and Leg Eater's gone because he got eaten. Naughty little fly, why does he cry? Caught in a web, now you'll be eaten. Alright, let's see here. That was a Lord of the Rings reference. Just go back to Dirtmouth and resume mind-numbingly dull diving. It's pretty nice. Lovely. Cloth should be here, yeah. Cool. Fill up on soul. I wish I could just, get infinite soul at this point, because it's really, really boring. Let's see. What else is there? Again, I could do Zote plus 10, but I'm not good enough for that. Maybe I'm banking on like either 1 hour or 2 hours for this episode if I don't kill the mender bug, but if I do, before that time frame is up, I guess I could put in some attempts for Grey Prince getting that gold statue. I don't know. That'll be pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know about that. Cause right now I'm not really good enough at dodging the attacks, so it's pretty much just like down to chance whether or not I survive. And so I don't really feel like doing that that much. I mean, obviously, I would like to complete it at some point, just to have this save file be like 100% done. But I'm not quite sure about doing that. Did I get the grave digger? Yes, I did. Did I open this door? Yes, I did. Okay. Elevator's gonna go up. Okay. Great. And then back to this. 17,700. Not getting a lot of geo, and that's because basically enemy drops are the only real geo source. I could farm the Colosseum, but there's no point getting more geo, so I don't really feel like doing that. Okay. Well, this is quite nice. Just on the weekend, a nice afternoon here, spending my time diving down a well. I don't know, I guess Sharp Shadow would speed things up a tiny amount, but I'll probably lose that time just being inefficient with inputs, so it doesn't really matter. It's actually really strange that the mender bug still hasn't shown up for me, cause this is like the absolute longest it has taken in any of my playthroughs, which is just really interesting how it happened on my playthrough on YouTube, you know. Pardon me, accidentally moved the mic. Move it back real quick. Okay, there you go. Let's see. Now what? What should I do? Doobly-doo. Wow, this is very fun. Really cannot believe how fun this is. Well, I don't know. Let's talk about random stuff. So I got a a new fountain pen recently. Expanded my collection. Purchased a Twisby Diamond 580 all aluminum, along with like Diamine Autumn Oak, just because I sort of like that color. It's like, you know, Noodler's Apache Sunset or whatever, except more like reserved, more professional, sort of. I mean, it's obviously not a very business friendly color, but it's pretty nice. Haven't really tried it much yet, but there's that. And I haven't gotten the chance to use it quite as much as I would like so far. I mean, it's been a very short amount of time since I've gotten it, so I haven't really used it a lot. Mainly just for like sketching and stuff in pen, which is really risky practice. And so I have it inked up with California Teal, Monteverde, which is you know, a very green teal, if I do say so myself. It's pretty nice. Got it in a fine nib, so it's really nice for like small writing and, you know, technical stuff and like fine sketching and whatever. I mean, obviously I could have gotten the extra fine, but I was a bit worried that that would be a bit too scratchy for my tastes. And even with the fine nib, it is quite a bit scratchier than like my Powerhouse Daily Driver pen, which is a Noodler's Conrad. Now I don't know why, but like, okay, so the Noodler's Conrad nib, right? It's very inexpensive. It's like $2 roundabouts, and that nib is like way smoother than the Twisby nib. Now, I don't know how much of that is a result of, you know, the Noodlers being a flex nib, and so, you know, it sort of got that spring, and that might just be perceived as smoother, and like how much of it is actually, you know, like the tuning of the nib and the smoothing of it. Cause like the Noodler's nibs aren't like worked on quite as much as the Twisby ones, right? Cause they're meant to be tinkered with, and sometimes they're misaligned. I don't know, and so it's I don't know why exactly, right? Cause it feels like so much smoother on like the different papers I've tested it on so far. And I guess another factor is that the Noodler's nib is more of like a fine medium, whereas the Twisby is a fine. And since they're different companies, it might be inconsistent sizing there. So might be that the smaller nib is just scratchier because it's a smaller area going across the paper, and so it just feels a bit scratchier. But I don't know how much that really impacts it. But yeah, based on my experiences so far, like the Twisby nib isn't scratchy. Like it's nowhere near like scratchy or toothy or whatever. There's just like some feedback, right? There's some sound, you know, just the probably falls within the acceptable range for sounds coming off of writing with a fountain pen. And you know, there's just this little feeling, right, when you're writing across the page, like you just feel the nib moving across the paper. And I don't know if I like that, right? I feel like I prefer just having like a glassy, smooth nib. And as far as I know, the Noodler's Conrad is like the closest nib I have to that, because it's just extremely smooth. Now, I did use like some mylar paper and micro mesh to smooth it out, but not a lot, and it was fairly smooth prior to doing that already, so I don't know how much that really impacts it. Anyway, so yeah, I have a Twisby 580 now. I actually removed the clip from it, which was quite an experience. I just prefer having clipless pens over pens with clips. Now, obviously, you know, the clips are there for a reason, right? Just, you know, if you want to clip it onto your clothes or onto some notebook or something just to keep it secure, and that's granted a very, very useful use, I don't know, for clips. You know, to help them not like fall out of your pocket or something. Just clip it onto the side, right? I don't know. I feel like taking the risk is good. And I don't know why. I just like a sort of more minimalistic design, I guess, for pens. And the clip sort of like interrupts, you know, the like round body of the pen. You know, you just got this metal clip hanging off one side, and it's sort of asymmetrical, and it doesn't really line up with the nib in all cases. So I don't know, I just felt like removing it. And with this TWSBI especially, after removing it, it is quite clean. Like, you don't really notice the absence. Like, there's no big like divot or anything in the pen after taking it out. There's a small slit, right? So the TWSBI clip basically have the form of the clip on the outside, and then there's this like thin metal like strip, like a little tab that sticks into the middle of the cap and then gets screwed on by the finial. And so basically all you need to do to remove the clip is to unscrew the finial. Now it was kind of weird. The problem with that is that for the TWSBI, at least, the finial was screwed on quite well, and it was like attached to a nut on the inside of the cap, behind like the sort of blind cap thing. And so obviously first I had to remove the blind cap and then get like a wrench, not a wrench, like a socket, well, a socket wrench, that's still a wrench, so like technically, but get that right and just hold that nut in place. And the problem is, like, with these pens, the interior of the cap is really small, and like the socket wrench like bits, I guess, I don't know how to describe them, don't really fit into the pen, so I couldn't really reach down far enough to actually secure the nut. And so as I unscrewed it, it didn't work actually, and so that didn't really work. So I don't know, I just sort of like pulled the finial out so the nut was like pressed against the end of the cap, and that sort of worked. So friction actually held the nut in place, and it wasn't really that good, right? It wasn't really secure. And so when I screwed it back on, I couldn't quite get it as tight as it was before removing the clip. It's still pretty good, right? It's not loose by any means, but I don't know, it's kind of less secure than it used to be. But again, it's quite nice having a clipless TWSBI. I really like the design. It's like a demonstrator. Obviously, if you're not a fountain pen person, this probably is the most boring talk of all time. But like, okay, I just like talking about stuff. So yeah, I got the aluminum model, obviously, and that's like more expensive than the plastic one. And if you don't know, the TWSBI 580 aluminum one basically just swaps out some of the inner mechanism and like the grip, swaps the plastic out for aluminum parts, and that makes it more durable, longer lasting, especially with the piston mechanism when it's changed from plastic to aluminum. That is quite a significant difference, because the piston mechanism is basically like the most likely place where the pen's gonna break, other than maybe like just material breakages, like maybe the screws or the threading get messed up or something. But like other than that, the piston is really the most at risk when it comes to breakage. Now, like the actual piston like knob, like the thing with the two rubber O-rings, is still plastic, and so that could still break. But like the whole like threading piston, like I don't know, the piston part, the little threaded rod that moves back and forth, and all that stuff, all that jazz, is made of aluminum, and so that makes it a lot more durable, and hopefully that'll allow it to last a longer time. And obviously with that change comes additional weight. Not a lot, maybe like 4 extra grams, because aluminum's quite light for a metal, but it's heavier than plastic, so it is a bit heavier, but I'm alright with that. It is noticeably heavier than the Noodler's Conrad, since that's just all like resin. So I mean, there is some metal trim, but not a whole metal piston mechanism. So oops, yeah. So yeah, I opted for the aluminum just because I wanted it to last a longer time. And I like that it's a demonstrator. I don't know how this is gonna work as like an everyday carry sort of thing, because it has a blind cap, and that should keep the cap at least fairly aesthetically pleasing, in case there's like leakage or something, or maybe some evaporation from the ink in the nib, and it should be fine, right? Because the one gripe I really have with demonstrators is the clear cap leads to like some unsightly ink buildup on the inside, the inner walls, and hopefully the blind cap should remedy that. Obviously it'll still look kind of bad on the inside of the blind cap, but that's a much more localized issue than having ink globs all over the inside of the cap. I would much rather prefer if the cap and like the piston knob at the back end of the pen were like made of opaque plastic or something, rather than clear plastic, so you could still have, you know, that whole ink level thing, you know, be able to see inside the reservoir and have all that ink sloshing around, but not have to see all that ink spillage. That's the case with the a few colors of the Conrad, you know, having an opaque cap and an opaque blind cap on the piston mechanism, and that's pretty nice. So I'll probably still stick with the Conrad, maybe. Now, the TWSBI 580 uses like, I think, Bach nib units, and so they're replaceable for like $20. But there are no like flex nib offerings made specifically for TWSBI. And I think at least the nibs are number 6 size, but I don't know if I could replace it with the Noodler's nib, cause like I enjoy the aspect of flex nibs, especially because those are, you know, they add a bit of character, a little bit of personality to your writing, and I just enjoy that. Like, I did get the fine nib, right, for the TWSBI 580, and that's just a consistent fine line. I mean, I still got it because I reckon having a fine nib would be good for like note taking or whatever, because you can write just like with a standard even line with a flex nib, and it's quite easy. You just don't put any pressure on the nib. But like, I don't know, with the Noodlers, the nib size is a bit bigger than I would like, and now the TWSBI nib is a bit finer than I would like, so it's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, having a fine nib is pretty nice for like smaller writing, as mentioned, and for like just a lot of stuff. And it's better, you know, on cheaper paper, because the Noodlers feed and nib and whatnot are all like extremely wet, lay down quite a lot of liquid, a lot of ink, even when you're not flexing. And so on cheaper paper, you know, like loose leaf paper, you know, just that cheap, really absorbent stuff, it's a lot better to have the TWSBI, right? Because first of all, it's a fine nib, so it's like a thinner line, so obviously it's gonna let out less ink, and also it's just drier. First of all, because the feed is different, right? Probably the ink channel in the feed is a lot narrower, because it doesn't have to be able to supply enough ink for like full flex writing like the Noodler's nib and feed have to, and so it just has to keep up with just regular writing with a fine nib, and so it's probably like a drier feed too, and so it would be much better to write with that on cheaper papers, so you won't have, you know, the bleed through and stuff happening and all the feathering, of course. Granted, there still will be feathering because that's like more based on just the straight up absorbency and the type of ink you have than in wetness. Obviously, wetness does play a role. If you have an extremely wet pen, it will increase feathering significantly, but like I guess the absorbency of the paper is a bit more of a factor there, and so I guess the TWSBI will be my go-to pen for like schoolwork or whatever. So there's that. But yeah, overall, I quite like it. I would say it was a purchase that was worth it in the end. Obviously, I haven't tried it quite as long as I would have liked, but so far it's quite nice. It's more solidly and like precisely built than the Conrad, right? Because like every part is just a lot more, I don't know, aligned with everything. A lot more like precise again. So like, I don't know, I just like that sort of thing, and I don't know, I don't really care for like the diamond in the Diamond 580, the faceted barrel. I would like it like just as much, if not better, if it were just straight up completely rounded. But I guess that does sort of give it, well, a unique shape, and I guess that's what they were going for, but it's fine. Sort of makes it a little bit more interesting to look at the ink inside, have it refract a little bit and with all the facets, but it's not the most appealing thing to me, especially given that the piston knob and the cap are perfectly round, whereas the barrel itself is the only thing that's faceted in that manner. I mean, I guess that's the best option, to have facets, because having the cap and knob faceted as well would be quite a hassle. And I guess that's also sort of a justification of the higher price tag, because cutting facets into a pen, I mean, obviously that's done with a machine, but just adding facets to a pen instantly jacks up the price, because it probably demands hand polishing of the exterior and the interior, and having facets on the outside means more polishing work, like more intricate work for that, whereas you know, with a round barrel you basically just polish the whole thing, maybe even do that on a lathe, and that would be much easier, and even possible to do that with a machine, although I doubt that that's what's happening. So yeah, I guess that sort of justifies that. And I don't know, overall I do like the design, especially since the parts are aluminum. They sort of fit in with the like silver colored, not silver metal, the silver colored trim, you know, the finial and the cap band, and there's a little ring on the back end where the piston is, and so it's basically just like silver and clear pen with the some red in the finial. That's not really a large part of the color scheme, that's just the TWSBI logo, and so that's pretty nice. Do quite like the design. It's a bit, you know, flashier than the Conrad and other Noodler's pens that I'm more used to. That's simply because it's just more modern, whereas Noodler's pens are like that traditional cigar shape, you know. Just got that larger top, larger cap, with that like straight barrel and tapering down to sort of like a flat capped, I don't know, ends. And so the Noodler's pens are much more sort of reminiscent of like the 1950s and 60s, you know, when fountain pens were more popular. And even like they even use older materials, right? Well, first of all, resin, vegetal resin is really like unique to the Noodler's company, and there are even they even offer ebonite pens, which ebonite is like a hard rubber that was like a highlight of older pens, you know, being made out of ebonite. And you know, the feeds are hand cut, made out of ebonite as well, and it's just Noodler's is quite a bit more like having a traditional, you know, by the book design. TWSBI is still well within like the classic cigar shape and whatnot, but there's a lot more going on in terms of whoopsie daisy, the aesthetics of the design, right? There's that little inner cap in the cap, for lack of a better syntax. And you know, there's just a lot more like transition, because first of all, it's completely, or you know, almost entirely clear other than the trim and stuff. Whereas the Noodlers that I have, the Conrad that I have, is only clear in the body, and the blind cap and cap are opaque. So you can see a lot more of the inner workings of the pen, and just a lot more complex when it comes to the design aspects. Granted, right, it's still quite simplistic. Like, you can't really be extremely flashy at this price point. But I like it. The TWSBI is much more modern, I would say. You know, what with the metal parts and completely clear resin. I think it's acrylic resin, maybe. Don't quote me on that, but there's that. And, you know, even the faceted barrel does add into the more modern design compared to stuff like Noodlers and, I don't know, maybe Edison, which are far more traditional and reserved in the shape of the pen. So there's that. I don't know about it, right? 'Cause like, pretty nice. What else is there? Switching gears now away from fountain pens after I've talked about them for like maybe 25 minutes or something. Let's see. I don't know. Go back to singing. I don't know. There's like nothing to discuss right now. What are we doing? You think I'm an ignorant savage, and you've been so many places. I guess it must be so, but still I cannot see if the savage one is me. How can there be so much that you don't know? Okay, let's see here. I don't know, like, I really just like resort to the same songs over and over, 'cause they're the only songs I know. Alright, Now I've heard there was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do ya? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, The baffled king composing hallelujah. 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 Alright. Na 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 na. What else? Some memes. Jingle my bells, baby. Jingle my bells, please. Jingle my bells, baby. Jingle my bells, please. Alright, well, this is quite nice. I also like talk about fountain pens again because there's nothing else to do. As far as ink goes, again, I got the Diamine Autumn Oak with the Twisby, and I've yet to try it, but it seems pretty nice. I got a full bottle mainly because I don't care that much about ink color at this point, and I was running a bit low on my other inks, so I just got, a bottle of a fairly visually appealing ink that seemed pretty nice. So I don't know about that. But I do feel like I would enjoy these, like sort of orange yellow color, just that sort of autumn leaf sort of thing. And it seems like it would be pretty good at shading, since I do have the Conrad with a flex nib, so that's sort of a thing to be taken into account. But the other main inks I have are just like Noodler's Navajo Turquoise, which again is a good shading ink because my daily driver is a flex pen, and I do sort of want to take advantage of that. And I also have California Teal, as mentioned, and those are basically the three bottle inks I have. I do have like some black ink, just like a straight up pure black. It doesn't really have any shading or anything, and that's like some, I don't know, craft store brand ink. I don't know what it is. Just an adequate black ink, just for completely traditional, business purposes and whatnot. The only problem with that ink is that since it's cheaper, I guess since it's like off-brand, like the formula for that ink leads to it being extremely water soluble, like more so than any of the other inks I have. Like basically if you drip water onto the page, the ink just washes away, right? Like it's just really bad in terms of water resistance. Like the Navajo Turquoise and whatnot, they hold up for quite a bit. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like with the black ink, it just basically washes like 70% of the darkness away when you like rinse a page, whereas like with the other inks, they hold up fairly well. I mean, obviously they aren't waterproof, but they don't leach out of the page quite as quickly or as much. Didn't even use up all the dives there. Let's see. So yeah, I do have some other pens. I don't solely own Noodler's Conrad and Twisby 580, but those are pretty much the only like pens I use frequently or regularly. So those are really the only ones I need to talk about, because the other ones I don't really use anymore. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. Again, I'm quite baffled at why the mender bug still hasn't appeared. I feel like he might just not appear on 1.3.0.6, and that's, I don't know. I don't know about that. Really, really weird. Let's see. This is a lot more relaxed than the previous episode, basically because I've accepted the fact that the mender bug's pretty much never gonna show up for me on this save. Might be a result of you know, keeping the same save from like the Grim Troop to the Lifeblood update. I don't know. Maybe it, like, corrupted the save and now the mender bug doesn't spawn, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like that would happen. But it might be a possibility. I have no idea. It's just really weird. Guess I could, like, I don't know. What do I do in the meantime while I'm diving here? Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you. Like a, what am I doing? A river flows surely to the sea. Darling, so it goes. That's probably extremely off key. Some things are meant to be. Let's see here. Again, I don't really understand. Like, I am much more of like a bass baritone sort of guy. But-ba-da-dee, I was born by the river, right? But like, heck, man, a lot of songs are way too high for me. But I try to find songs that are in my range, but aren't a lot that are relatively well known. So that's really unfortunate, really sad for me. I do like take efforts to like transpose songs into my range, and that sort of works. The real problem is like my high notes are really bad. Like, I have a decent falsetto and a decent head voice, but those aren't as developed as I would like them to be. Like, oh boy, that's like a falsetto. Again, like, I don't really like using that because, first of all, it's very bad, very, very bad, and quite inconsistent. And it's just like an extreme shift in tone, going from head voice even to falsetto. I'm differentiating between head voice and falsetto. Terminology sort of differs among different singers, right? I'm referring to head voice as like sort of like that slight shift in tone you get when you go up to the top of your modal register, and falsetto being like that higher register above modal, where you go like doo 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 doo. Ooh, don't have soul. Doo 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 doo. And head voice is sort of like yada just sort of like I don't know, higher half of modal. Probably like a, I don't know, specific term for that. And then chest voice is sort of like the deeper end of the modal register, below head voice, below falsetto. You know, just that sort of rumbling, you know, sort of vibrates the chest, you know, resonates deep within your body when you sing there, you know? I don't know what I'm talking about. It's not even a tune. Let's see. So it's like, hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. You know, that's like chest voice. And then like, hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. That's like head voice. I don't know. That's basically the terminology I've come to use. Ha. Ran out of soul again. Back to the bench. So yeah. Again, I'm by no means a professional or trained singer. I'm basically just like messing around with my voice. Don't even know if this is proper technique. So like, really kind of sad. Probably should take, you know, singing lessons and actually figure out how to do this correctly, but sort of working right now. Now granted, I don't really have a loud belt or anything of the sort. First of all, I'm recording into a mic, so I don't have to sing loudly, right? I'm not like an opera singer or anything, so like it's a lot easier to get like the rich tone without sacrificing like recording volume. Whereas, you know, if you have to actually fill a concert hall without a microphone, then you would actually have to have correct technique, and so I don't know about that. Probably a downside to this, but yeah, there's that. Doo-doo-doo. Boy howdy. Bum ba-dum bum 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 bum. Let's see here. Boy. We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I. A full commitment's what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. I just wanna tell you how I'm feeling. Gotta make you understand. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Boy. What are we doing here? Why are we here? Just to suffer? Hi, Zote. What's up? How much time have we wasted? 53.5 minutes. Great. Let's see. Maybe like an hour and a half on this one, cause like, I don't know. Really don't feel like spending 2 hours again, but I might if it comes down to it. Okay. I don't know. I have nothing to talk about, really. Like, I exhausted fountain pen discussion. I could talk more about that, but, like, that would probably get really annoying if I kept on talking about stuff that pretty much nobody, discusses. So, I don't know. Pospikut неуклюже пешеходы по лужам, а вода по асфальту рекой. И неясно проход. I don't even know if that's the correct lyric for that. I don't know, dude. Oops, ran out of soul. Oops, all berries. All cherries, haha, get it? Team Cherry. Made Hollow Knight. So anyway, I actually started like sort of a new playthrough, new Steel Soul playthrough. I mean, that doesn't really make a difference. Off camera, just playing through Lifeblood, and I don't know, like, sort of gave me a nostalgic feeling, because I was being a lot more, I don't know, a lot more thorough during that than I really was for quite a long time. And so that just, like, I was being a lot slower, right? Just like taking care to find all the secrets and whatnot. And so that gave me a lot more time to sort of like just look at the visuals, the art of the game as a whole, and that really brought me back to like the first playthrough where I paid attention to that sort of stuff, and it just really, like, the game felt different, right? Like, just felt like the first time through, marveling at everything. Seeing, like, all this, I really can't describe it, right? Like, just sort of, like, really, very personal experience going through the game, for the first time. Cause, like, alright, I picked up the game maybe like February, I don't know, probably a lot later. And I knew sort of what the game was like, right? I knew some of the main progression path, and so I sort of spoiled the very beginning of the game for myself. But like, I don't know, I sort of remember like feeling like, wow, this is just like actual art right here, playing through the game, like. And now, like, the whole game is just speeding through, beating everything and whatnot. But it's nice to sort of slow down after a while and be like, this is what the game was like, just being like, chop down some grass, and it's like marveling at the detail in the game, like, look at all that animation. Man, look at that. We got that background there, got the wind blowing. But that was kind of weird. Stuff like that. Just feels like a lot more homely when you're playing through slower. Like, everything's just, everything's handcrafted, obviously. And you can, like, if you just take the time to, like, look at this rustling grass and whatnot. I'm not gonna fight Grey Prince, so what am I, crazy? Just look at all this stuff. Look at all that, the glow on there on the shop. Enter the stag station. See that bulletin board? That little idol. Little insignia. Chop down the grass inside here as well. Clink the bell. It's just a lot of fun little details that sort of make the world feel at home. And I guess, like, I don't know, I could still pay attention to that stuff even now, but like, you can look at the houses in the background, and I mainly just like skip past here without even paying attention to those anymore. It's just really nice. Slow down, take things step by step. Just makes the whole game feel like it was. Like everything is as it should be. Those halcyon days of summer. Playing through the game for the first time. Early 2017. Not looking at the wiki. Figuring things out for myself, just like learning all the attacks and learning the bosses, dying against the bosses, just like practicing, figuring out charm combinations, figuring out what charms are good, what charms are bad. Just really nice, just going back. Alright, well, since I have nothing to talk about for an hour, maybe half an hour, and I'm still gonna have to do this, I guess I will. Let's see. What can I even do here, right? Like, really stupid. Really bad idea here. I have no idea what I should do. I could, like, read something while I'm doing this so I can free up my mind to wander. Oh, fuck. Wander and ponder, you know what I'm saying? Ponder just the game as a whole, you know? Have this very intricate game that sort of fades away when you're focused on it, right? Like, all this art took a long time to perfect, but like, if you're not paying attention to it, it just like fades away into the background. But if you do look out for that sort of thing, you can see all that stuff. Again, reminder, I have actually written a review for Hollow Knight. Review. Oopsie daisy. And yeah, did that stuff. And that was pretty nice. Wrote like 1,800 words maybe. Wait, hold on, let me check actually. I'm not sure about this. Might have been like way more. I have no idea. I could just read my review in case you haven't seen it. I mean, if you're still watching this video at this point, good on you, but also, what are you doing? Let's see here. So yeah, this was written, 3,800 words. Never mind, that is way longer than I expected. I guess I'll just like read this here. There's like a link in my Discord, the meme one, and stuff like that. And you can read it there. It was written like before Hidden Dreams, I think, or maybe like slightly after. It was certainly very early on in terms of like updates. I don't know. Guess I'll just like read that while I'm doing this. I gotta print it out first because I don't have two monitors, and this is, you know, taking up the one I have. So there's that. So yeah, guess I'll read that out in case you want to listen to it. Again, you probably don't even need to be watching this video. This is basically just like a deep dive, haha, get it, into my own personality, my own character, rather than progressing in any meaningful way into the game itself at this point, because the mender bug isn't spawning, and so I'm running quite dry on new content. Alright, well, I think it should be printed now. Again, I'm printing out the review to read it, since I don't have the means to read it and simultaneously play the game, so I'll be back quite soon, hopefully. Alright, okay, let's get back, sit back down here, get everything back into place, put on my headset and whatnot. Again, this review is 3,800 words. So, if you're not into that sort of stuff, if you don't want to listen to that garbage, granted, I probably should like update this now that it's been like it's been like a couple of months since I wrote it. But yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I'm just gonna be doing this for the rest of the video, I guess. Let me drink some water, actually. In wilds beyond they speak your name with reverence and regret. For none could tame our savage souls, yet you the challenge met. Under palest watch, you taught, you changed. Base instincts were redeemed. A world you gave to bug and beast, as they had never dreamed. Hollow Knight, an indie Metroidvania by Team Cherry, focused on combat, platforming, and exploration. Despite the seemingly bland and overworked description, Hollow Knight has become fairly successful in its own right, selling over 500,000 copies as of September 2017, so that's when it was written, okay, and is one of the most polished, enjoyable games of the past decade. I purchased the game months after release, and truly regret missing out on its beginnings on Kickstarter. The $15 list price for this game is absolutely incredible, considering the average first playthrough can range anywhere from 20 hours up to 60 or 70. Besides that, Hollow Knight, for me at least, has a large amount of replayability, offering a more difficult permadeath mode after the first game completion. I mean, I'm doing that right now. And 3 different endings to uncover, along with secrets. Oopsie daisy, lost my place. Secrets scattered around the entire world to explore. While it doesn't have the infinite replayability of a roguelike, the extreme variety and quantity of content in the game means that every new playthrough feels fresh. Are you sure about that? I should note that the Steam statistics on my account are egregiously inaccurate, as I switched to the DRM free version of the game soon after my first playthrough. I myself, as a completionist, and I do mean completionist, taking care to collect every single relic, rancid egg, and geonode before finishing each playthrough. You can see that in this playthrough, actually. Have done over 40 now, 110% runs of the game at this point. 110% being, completion, like full-on complete everything. Runs of the game at this point, and I haven't felt any sense of boredom with the game. For those seeking a new experience, however, the small but high-quality collection of community-created mods can add a unique twist to new playthroughs. With the introduction out of the way, it's time to get into the good stuff. Following the structure of the review summary, there was a summary somewhere, the first item to discuss is Hollow Knight's Metroidvania categorization. As befits its genre, Hollow Knight is a winding, complex, non-linear game that rewards meticulous exploration and thought. As you explore, new upgrades become available to you, allowing you to explore further, breaking down the barriers that previously prevented you from accessing a new area or boss. Each area is linked to the ones around it by several paths, and very few things are absolutely necessary to complete the game, meaning that a playthrough can vary wildly in its routing, and the difficulty of the game also depends on the decisions that you make. Boy howdy. Alright, next page. This focus on optional exploration and branching paths is greatly benefited by the well-polished movement controls in Hollow Knight. In the beginning, the only controls available are horizontal movement and a jump, accompanied by a nail attack in 4 directions. However, the simplicity of these controls belies its elegance. The horizontal movement is extremely responsive due to the lack of acceleration, allowing for precise lateral placement on small platforms or ledges. The attack allows for pogoing, a mechanic where you downstrike on an enemy or object. Where a downstrike on an enemy or object bounces you upwards, allowing you to gain height and access new areas. Furthermore, the directional attacks greatly increase the effectiveness of the starting nail against flying creatures and allows for precise control over the placement of the nail strike. The jump mechanic in its own right is a masterpiece. The height of the character's jump is dependent on the duration of the depression of the jump button, meaning that the precise platforming required in certain areas of the game can be done without frustration. Mileage may vary for that one. Jumps can vary from short, quick hops to wide, sweeping leaps that cross over a chasm. Furthermore, lateral movement is preserved in midair, which, while physically inaccurate to the real world, allows for a much more sophisticated movement system and much more enjoyable platforming, especially later on in the game. Dashing, the first unlockable movement ability, is integral to the gameplay and becomes almost second nature, allowing for longer jumps, quick dodges, and a greatly reduced travel time from area to area. Next comes wall jump, which allows for rapid ascension up walls, and it becomes vital for its wall clinging ability alone. The crystal heart enables a super dash to be performed and is charged up either on the ground or clinging to a wall, giving it a feeling of power and forcefulness. One of the last abilities to be unlocked is double jump, acquired very close to the end of the game. This effectively extends the normal jump, and the pressure-sensitive jump height still carries over. It can also be used to cancel the downwards momentum of the character, allowing for intricate platforming and more precise dodging. Boy, did I predict the path of pain. Alright, finally, there are the Shade Cloak and Yzma's Tear, which greatly extend the usefulness of the previous abilities, allowing for traversal through black barriers and acid. I can't even read right now. Respectively. Finally, breaking down the last walls blocking entrance into the last frontiers of Hollow Nest. The slow, measured pace at which each of these abilities is introduced is no mistake. The interim period between each new ability gives you time to learn the intricacies of your newfound capabilities and appreciate the utility and versatility of each upgrade, both on its own and in conjunction with others. Finally, when all the movement upgrades are acquired, the game tests your resolve with the ultimate challenge. The White Palace, sucks to be you, there's the Path of Pain now. Solely dedicated to platforming, the White Palace is quite a fickle beast. What am I doing here? September 2017 me is actually really stupid. Alright, and has garnered some controversy over its difficulty. However, I enjoy it very much as a testament to the progress you make throughout the course of the game in figuring out how platforming works, eking out special maneuvers and tricks during regular gameplay. The White Palace truly tests every single aspect of your movement repertoire, from jumping to dashing to pogoing, especially pogoing. Spikes, saws, and sometimes void constructs obstruct your path, and precision is the name of the game, both in timing and in movement. The difficulty is fairly high upon the first encounter, but with repeat attempts it becomes easier and easier as you improve your platforming. For those who would prefer not to test their mettle against the entirety of the palace, however, there are skips for certain areas as well as certain charms which render the challenge pretty much void. See what I did there? Excuse me. I didn't really want to do that. Actually frickin' pointed out the pun in the review. Wow, I'm actually mega shit poster. Alright. However, I always enjoy my trips to the White Palace as it is ultimately the final test of your knowledge of the game's movement mechanics. Not every ability contributes to maneuverability, however. A great deal of permanent upgrades are dedicated to the combat system, which is every bit as important as the platforming in Hollow Knight. For the first section of the game, you are resigned to using a broken old nail to swipe at enemies, but gradually build up confidence in your ability to slash left, right, up and down to vanquish your foes. Soon after one of the first bosses, however, you obtain the Vengeful Spirit, introducing the spell system. The Vengeful Spirit is a ranged magic attack and allows you to progress to the next area of the game, imprinting its importance in the combat system. However, spells use the same resource, soul, as healing does, resulting in a fine balance between spending soul on spells and spending it on regaining masks, the precious health containers that keep you alive. Further on in the game, you learn 2 new spells, adding new downward and upward attacks. Each of these 3 spells are upgraded into a dark version, increasing the damage and hitbox size of the spell, and greatly increasing their utility. This progression from a simple nail to strong edging on overpowered attacks, is followed, albeit in a more balanced fashion, in the nail arts. These abilities are learned from 3 separate NPCs scattered around the world, and allow you to charge up your nail, then release its power in a large swipe that deals more damage than the nail alone. Come on, can you please? Please? Can you please? Finally, talking to the nailsmith will yield upgrades to the starting nail, increasing its damage at the cost of geo, the in-game currency, as well as pale ore, a resource found scattered throughout the world. These nail upgrades, spells, and nail arts become intrinsic parts of the combat and contribute to the feeling of progression and character improvement that follows you as you make your way through the game. Like the platforming mentioned earlier, Hollow Knight's combat system is crafted to perfection. Not necessarily, and utilizes every ability you attain throughout the game, riddling you with swarms of enemies and large bosses alike, testing your skill to its limits. Starting with the old nail, you quickly learn how to fight against swarms of vengeflies, gruzzers, and the infected citizens of Hollow Nest, quickly improving the accuracy of your next page. Excuse me, what? Lag spike? Accuracy of your swings and gaining a feel for the timing of the combat, establishing a rhythm to enemy encounters that follows you from King's Pass all the way to the Abyss. Once spells are introduced, the combat gains a level of flavor, giving you a choice between nail-based and spell-based combat, or a mixture of both. Almost any combat style is viable, as a result of the balance between melee and spell DPS, and the use of nail arts can be a fun way to spice up the combat further, although I use them quite rarely in my playthroughs. Wow, good one. Hollow Knight sports a wide variety of enemies, and as a result, a great deal of variety in its enemy combat, which permeates the majority of the experience. Most every enemy has unique yet patterned attacks, and as you progress, you have the ability to learn the tells for each attack, getting better and better at dispatching crowds of enemies with ease. From exploding jellyfish to dive-bombing bees, the repertoire of Hollow Nest's foes will hone your capabilities and prepare you for one of the focal points of the combat system, the bosses. Bosses share the same level of variety and unique attack patterns and strategies that the enemies have. Even with over 20 individual bosses, I found every single one to be unique and memorable, either due to their difficulty or their triviality. The bosses take the trial by combat of Hollow Nest's enemies and amplify it to the extreme, while still retaining the smooth learning curve seen in the platforming system. To start things off, simple bosses like the Gruzmother serve as stepping stones to the more difficult bosses in the game, reinforcing the utmost importance of pattern recognition and improvement through practice. Each boss can be boiled down to a series of attack patterns, and every such attack is telegraphed with a tell in such a way that retains the air of difficulty without leading to a sense of unfair damage. Learning each boss is, in itself, a unique challenge, but once you do learn its attacks and how to dodge them, everything becomes clear, and the sense of satisfaction of mastering a new skill resonates in tandem with the musical chime signaling your victory. Like the White Palace and its grueling test of your platforming skill, your proficiency in combat is truly validated in the Colosseum of Fools. Essentially a large combat arena, the Colosseum is a chance for those well-versed in the art of war to match themselves against waves and waves of enemies. This combat is separated into 3 individual trials which progress from the easiest, the Trial of the Warrior, to the legendary Trial of the Fool, the ultimate test of combat prowess. Not anymore, big boy. Nightmare King Grim. Consisting of waves upon waves of enemies, from beefed-up versions of boulders from the very beginning of the game, to entirely new enemies, only found in the trial. This, along with the true final boss, serves as the ultimate combat-oriented challenge of the entire game, and its difficulty reflects that, although many complain about the overbearing difficulty of the last trial, I like that it poses a challenge for almost every skill level. Except after you play 800 hours of the game. Excuse me. Oh, okay. And can vary in difficulty depending on your charm setup, should you want to make it more challenging. This variable difficulty is a fantastic byproduct of the semi-open world and the plethora of options available to you at every juncture in the game. The variety of options means that you can adjust pretty much everything to match your skill level, simply by progressing wherever you can, going through the areas and bosses at your own pace. If you want something to be very challenging, you need only encounter it earlier, and if something proves too difficult, just go somewhere else, unlock new abilities and upgrades, and go back. The crux of this comes in the form of charms, equipable items that provide benefits at the cost of a limited pool of charm notches with which to equip them. Charms provide a wide variety of effects, ranging from nail and spell improvements to movement buffs and healing tweaks. The 36, well now 40, charms effectively allow you to take whatever approach to combat, platforming, and exploration that you want, using the charms you want. Want to make the game harder? Equip fewer charms. Want to get past a hard boss? Equip more charms. Although some charms are effectively useless in most situations, a large handful of them play a large role in shaping your experience, and can synergize with other charms in novel ways, adding to the sense of discovery and wonderment of the game. Finally, for the ultimate challenge, Steel Soul mode is unlocked after finishing the game once, allowing you to start a new playthrough where death is permanent. A fun challenge for experienced players wanting a greater level of difficulty. Unfortunately, now, a little bit too practiced in the game to have that be challenging. And again, like even for regular players, like Steel Soul is just the regular game, except you don't have any lives. Really just being patient and progressing before you take on bosses and stuff. Not that difficult in the least. Probably could do it like after maybe like 2 normal playthroughs, even 1 would be fine, but probably good idea to get some practice. But it's not really that difficult, especially if you use spells, because like pretty sure like September 2017 I was not using spells nearly as much as I do now. Granted, not talking about spamming dive into a well, I mean like in combat. But yeah, it's really not that challenging with the correct builds. I don't know what I was talking about. Now that the bulk of the gameplay-oriented review is over, it's time to dive into what makes Hollow Knight special, and not just another indie Metroidvania. Its art and lore. First up, the artwork. If you haven't noticed by now, Hollow Knight is entirely hand-drawn, barring the text. In fact, all of the artwork was made by Ari Gibson, with design input from the Kickstarter backers and William, the other half of Team Cherry. The sprites for Hollow Knight are in a cartoonish style and greatly affect the tone of the game, from dark foreboding chasms to bright leafy gardens. Excuse me, Munderbug. The art has a continuity and flow between all the different areas, and each of those areas largely has a unique color scheme, helping to differentiate it from the others and lend a certain memorability and charm to the entire breadth of the kingdom. There are thousands of sprites, and each one just seems to fit inside the world of Hollow Nest. The enemies fit in their respective zones, and the boss... oh, fuck. Isn't a... and there. The bosses feel like natural extensions of the enemies, and all throughout, the sense of a decaying, broken insect kingdom is relayed. I really cannot stress enough how phenomenal the artwork is for this game, especially given the fact that enemies were fully rendered in hours or days with no iteration whatsoever due to the time restraints of development. Every line, every shadow, and every highlight is highly polished, and the enemies and environment built from them feel consistent and have a level of realism. In the text there's some verb conjugation and pluralization errors, but that's alright. A level of realism, something few games can accomplish. The other component of Hollow Knight's art is its music, composed by Christopher Larkin. The OST, original soundtrack, for Hollow Knight is on par with the art, if not better. Each area has a unique track that plays while you wander inside it, with variants for times of combat and great duress. Some bosses even sport their own individual songs, filled with emotion and a sense of the story behind their own adventures in Hollow Knight. Dived too early there. In Hollow Nest, never mind. Larkin weaves in leitmotifs in many of the tracks, leaving a sense of an interconnected world, and the consistent, world of Hollow Nest. That's shitty writing there. Periods of combat are marked by intense, fast-paced music, while exploration is accompanied with slower, dulcet tones. Each song manages to be simple yet unique and easily recognizable from its counterparts, and every area's music fits its personality perfectly, ranging from the somber tones of the Soul Sanctum to the bright music of Crystal Peak, whose chiming notes belie the dangers within. The soundtrack accompanies you from the menu screen all the way to the end of the game, molding your perspective on each area and boss, and giving everything an underlying substance and ambiance. Added onto the world established by the sprites and music is a deep, far-reaching lore that pervades the entirety of Hollow Nest, despite a seemingly lacking storyline. This is because Hollow Knight's lore, while complex, is hidden in the lore tablets, NPC dialogue, and subtle visual and audio clues sprinkled throughout the game. Many aspects of the history of Hollow Nest are still not confirmed, leading to a discontinuous, scattered knowledge of the events leading up to the protagonist's fall into King's Pass. Tidbits of lore are everywhere, but require an active effort by the player, read you, to piece them together, slowly uncovering an understanding of the past and present, the struggle between the Pale King and the Radiance, the emergence of the Infection, the Dreamers, and yes, the Hollow Knight himself, are all players in the massive battle for control over the entire kingdom of Hollow Nest. As you continue playing, you will discover that the actions of the good guys of yore were not quite as altruistic as they seem, and that both God and Worm alike share guilt in the destruction of Hollow Nest proper. The art, the music, and the lore all combine, whoopsie-daisy, to tie the kingdom together, and generate a level of immersion that is unparalleled by the vast majority of games today. I promise you this, you will not regret making a concerted effort to learn the full story of the last and only civilization, the Eternal Kingdom, Hollow Nest. Granted, Hollow Knight is not a perfect game. It's one of the best games I've ever played and is virtually flawless. On a purely technical level, but I do have a few gripes. The first problem, and perhaps the most significant, is the underdevelopment of some of the NPCs and areas in the game. For example, the Abyss and the Howling Cliffs felt very empty in terms of content. I understand that this could be a design choice to reflect the hollow, why am I so stupid, quality of the very outskirts of Hollow Nest. But these two areas specifically had very few things to do compared to the rest of the game, which further exacerbated the issue due to this short amount of time spent exploring them, as opposed to other areas that develop as you progress, with more content becoming accessible with upgrades, giving you a new perspective on them and adding to the depth of the lore and personality. Similarly to the Abyss and the Cliffs, a few of Hollow Knight's NPCs felt a bit shallow and unfinished, without a large amount of character progression. In particular, I felt that Tiso, the midwife, and the mask maker were a bit flat. Compared to the more developed characters like Sly, Cornifer, and Ogrim, the aforementioned NPCs were effectively lore dispensers, with no real impact on the game's progression as a whole. While I appreciate the tidbits of lore these characters divulged, they did not have much of a personality to them, except for Tiso, who's an insufferable braggart. Other than the issues with a few weak areas and characters, my problems with Hollow Knight are essentially trivial. First, certain sections of the game can be missed during a regular playthrough, and permanently inaccessible on that save file. Note that this complaint does not include intentionally missable content, such as the 2 possible Nailsmith and Zote achievements. Examples include the Grey Prince in the Hidden Dreams content pack, secret rooms in the White Palace, and an arcane egg in the Lifeblood core, really only a concern for insane completionists. And giving the Elderbug his flower. Speaking of which, I don't think I did that on this playthrough, sorry. Additionally, a handful of content in the game requires tedious grinding to complete. The Hunter's Journal is the most evident example of this. Wow, no shit. To complete an entry in the journal, one must kill a certain number of an enemy, unlocking comments about the creature made by the hunter. However, because there are 150 plus enemies to kill, and a handful of enemies have a necessary kill count that is far too high, example given Husk Warrior and Mosskin, getting the reward for completing the entire journal takes far too long to achieve. The last issue with Hollow Knight is effectively unavoidable: glitches. Team Terry has fixed a great deal of performance issues and glitches already, and a great deal of the glitches are most likely to remain in the game to keep glitched Hollow Knight speedruns interesting. Wow, that clearly happened. Lifeblood update fucking ruined everything. Ah, boy. So naive, September 2017 me. So the main offenders I'm referring to are the visual glitches and glitches that impact immersion or game progression. These include some Z fighting seen in platform sprites, bosses getting stuck in door frames, and sprites for bosses like Hornet being displayed upside down, possibly the silliest visual glitch in the game. Besides those complaints, I wholly recommend Hollow Knight. It's not only one of the best games released in the past decade and my favorite Metroidvania, it's an experience. Exploration, platforming, combat, art, and lore combine to create a charming, enjoyable game with surprising depth and eloquence. The sheer quantity of branching paths to take make each playthrough slightly different, and the game is bursting with additional content to explore. In fact, even more content is due for release, with Hidden Dreams marking the first of 3 free content packs that add a few new bosses and mechanics to Hollow Knight, in addition to the Hornet DLC coming, hopefully, next year, which will add a new playable character and massive amounts of lore. These updates are meant to be seamless continuations of the base game, fleshing it to what Team Cherry wanted it to be during development. Hollow Knight is already an amazing game, and it's only going to get better. William and Ari have created the most polished, beautiful, immersive, and satisfyingly challenging Metroidvanias of the past few years. And even after writing the 3,800 words praising their work, I've barely scratched the surface. So that was my Hollow Knight review from September of last year. I do disagree with some things there now. You know, like the first of all, the glitches. That's really unfortunate. That sort of got shut down with the Lifeblood update. And just a few criticisms, a few things there, just weren't quite as accurate to like my view today. But I don't know, they're fine. Probably like I'm too lazy to really like edit that review. It's still semi-accurately reflects my views on the game, and so I don't know, it's fine. Well, I guess that's the end of this episode, because like really running out of stuff to talk about, and I still don't freaking have Menderbug. You see this garbage? Oh my god, why though? Anyway, that's it. End of the episode. Only an hour and a half this time. Like episode 14. Goodbye. I've been Verulian, and I'll see you next time. I'll probably just do this off camera at this point, because like this is really the shittiest content on the entire channel. Anyway, bye.